Hi, we're FossID. We're a software composition analysis solution provider. In addition to our SCA technology, we also deliver software supply chain integrity services such as open source audits and software security testing. But for now, I'd like to give you a run-through of our software composition analysis tooling. We partner with large enterprises around the world that have the strictest requirements for software supply chain integrity. Basically, organizations that need to know exactly what's in their code. But let me give you a quick backstory of how we got here. We were founded in 2016 by open source program office leaders at Ericsson, although at the time it wasn't necessarily known as an OSPO, but they were effectively performing the function of what we call an OSPO today. That is, verifying the license compliance and protecting the intellectual property of the software developed. The founders decided there's a better way to do this, and they decided to build their own tools, which ultimately led to the creation of FossID. For 5 years, we built a pretty robust client base, helping clients maintain visibility of their open source usage until we were acquired by Snyk in 2021. Snyk, until then, only had the capability to perform software composition analysis by processing managed dependencies. But FossID brought the ability to cover unmanaged code as well, and Snyk saw that as an opportunity to bring to market a more complete offering. However, the founders decided there was a big demand for this technology on its own, and to realize their vision, they bought the company back in 2022. Since then, we have focused on expanding our toolset to meet the needs of developers, DevOps, and legal and compliance teams, as well as adding services to become a more complete solution company. Now, I've mentioned the word software composition analysis a lot, so let me just talk about that a little bit and what that means. Simply put, it means helping you find all the third-party software in your code and highlighting their associated security vulnerabilities, copyright, and license compliance risk. How do we do that? Well, first do what any SCA vendor should do. We analyze dependencies by reading the application's manifest files to discern the direct dependencies and calculate the transitive dependencies of those direct dependencies. And that gives us a pretty robust view into the composition of the software based on what is properly managed by a package manager. This is where many SCA tools stop. We take it a step further. Our core technology and differentiator from our founding is our signature scanning. Signature scanning allows us to, in a language-agnostic way, find complete components even if they are not managed by a package manager. So if you have files that are taken from open source components, if you have open source binaries in your code base, used AI-generated code, or if you have even copy-pasted some open source code into your code base, the FossID signature scanner will find it. With that, we can identify components regardless of how they were introduced. Now, we also take a third step. Our license extractor scans the code itself, looking for license declarations and copyright statements that might not necessarily have been available at the component level. Rather, it was introduced at the code level. Through these 3 distinct passes, we're able to find all third-party software in the code, regardless of how it got there. Now, what does this look like in practicality? Well, first we have to build the component inventory. So this is where all the scanning methodologies that I just showed you come together. We find snippets of open source that was injected by AI coding tools or simply copy-pasted, down to just 6 lines of code. We find unmanaged components. This is any file or binary that was introduced without a package manager. And we process the managed dependencies. These are the direct and transitive dependencies that your application relies on. Once we have that component inventory built, we then look up the associated risks with those components. This means cross-referencing known vulnerabilities in the National Vulnerability Database. It also means looking up the related license and copyright information, both what we can extract with our license extractor technology and what we've harvested and curated in our open source knowledge base. Once we have the component inventory and the related security and license risks, we help you generate a range of reports including the all-important software bills of material and notice files to demonstrate compliance to those that require it. Powering all of this is our knowledge base that we've been curating and maintaining since 2016. We've been cataloging GitHub and other open source repositories and package ecosystems such as Maven and Go, to name a few, for many years to amass over 200 million components that we track. Across all of that harvesting and data cleansing work, we have identified and maintained over 2,500 different open source licenses. For security research, we also have a team dedicated to maintaining exactly what lines of code are vulnerable within a CVE. This catalog of over 200,000 vulnerable snippets allows us to directly find the presence and precise location of this vulnerable code within your project. This added layer of security, which we call Vulnerable Snippet Finder, means we can potentially find CVEs even if the related component is not present or has been modified beyond recognition. This knowledge base requires constant updates to be effective. We update new CVEs daily and notify clients of any matches automatically. Every week, we dig in and update the vulnerable snippets related to those CVEs. And lastly, our data for new open source library for source code and licenses is updated every month. All of this has to be practical and work in your environment. So let's show you how you can work with FossID. There are two main scanning tools that we provide. First, FossID Workbench. This is a web application that gives you the full capabilities to manage your scans, policies, and reports, and includes role-based access control and user management. Second, FossID Toolbox gives you command line access directly to all of the scanning capabilities, which works great specifically for the developer experience. The knowledge base is comprised of the scan server and the various KB data volumes. Most of our clients choose the hybrid deployment model where the SCA tools are deployed to your environment while FossID hosts and manages the knowledge base. However, we do have some clients with very strict confidentiality requirements that benefit from our air-gapped or on-prem model in which you can deploy and maintain the KB as well. Now, when it comes to integrating the tooling with your workflow, let's talk about how you can customize your use of FossID. Here's how you can leverage both Workbench and Toolbox. From the Workbench, if you're a developer and you want to run the scans in your IDE or your terminal, we have the Workbench agent to run scans, fetch results, download reports, and more. You can also use Toolbox to scan your code locally in a stateless way before pushing your code. It will not interact with Workbench. If your code lives in a Git repository, Workbench can clone your code directly from Git for scanning. It's a way to help with onboarding so you don't have to manually upload your code into Workbench. Rather, we can just download it directly from Git. If you're interested in automating the scan in your CI/CD pipeline, the same Workbench agent you run in your terminal can run from a pipeline. This allows you to trigger scans and do things like break the build if you have any license policy violations or security vulnerabilities. FossID Toolbox can also run in a CI/CD pipeline in a stateless way. This is great for quick and easy checks of anything you might be introducing without the overhead of creating and running a scan from Workbench. And finally, if you're operating inside Workbench and you're working with scan results that needs developer attention, you can create Jira tickets from inside Workbench so that developers know there is something that needs to be actioned on. In short, FossID SCA tools are very flexible to mesh with your workflow needs. And we've been very happy to work with great enterprises around the world where software composition analysis, knowing exactly what's in the code, is critical. Whether your top priority is managing license compliance for embedded systems, or meeting SBOM regulations of your industry, or confidently leveraging AI coding tools and protecting intellectual property, FossID offers the wide coverage, deep analysis, and flexible configurations you need to keep development moving quickly and safely. I hope this helps you see how FossID, software composition analysis tooling, can help you. Now, we only went over our product. We also provide professional services geared toward M&A due diligence and software supply chain security. You can learn more about those on our website. Thanks for your time.